So this is lesson 6.6a in elementary algebra, and it is called Solving Equations by Factoring. Okay, so up to this lesson, we have been taking things like x squared plus 5x plus 6 equals 0, and you've been doing all kinds of different ways to factor this depending on what the problem looked like. I guess it didn't have an equals 0, did it? It just said that. And you would do things like, try this. Two numbers multiplied together give you x squared. Two numbers multiplied together that give you 6, added up give you 5, and you would do something like that. And that would be your answer. You did all kinds of different ones. Well, this time in this lesson, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're just going to go the next couple steps after you do this. So up until this point, we've just gotten to that point. Now we're going to go a little bit further with that answer. So a couple of the things that we have to remember to be true, we know they're true, but sometimes we forget them, that if we have two numbers, and let's say one is x, and one of the numbers is y, and we multiply them together and we get 0. One of the things that we know to be true is that one of these two numbers, in order to multiply two numbers together to get 0 for an answer, one of those numbers has to be 0. So if x is 3, y would have to be 0 in order for us to multiply and get 0. If y is 2, then x would have to be 0 in order to multiply them to get 0. So anytime we have two numbers that we're multiplying together and we want to get for our answer 0, then one of those numbers that we're multiplying has to be 0. Okay, that's one of those, to many students, one of those duh moments, but like everybody knows that. Any number times 0 is 0. But sometimes we forget that, and what that does is it opens up a whole new world of figuring out problems. So, for example, let's go to this new world. X squared plus 5x plus 6 equals 0. All right, the only thing we're doing in this lesson that's different is we're putting an equals 0 there. Okay, everything's done the same way. We're going to break this into two binomials. We're going to put an equal to 0 there. Remember, we had an x plus, a 2 and an x plus 3. Two numbers multiplied together, give me 6, added up, give me 5. And that's where we stop. All right, the next step, what we're trying to do here is, and this is another one of those tips, anytime there's an equal sign, you're trying to find out what number what number we're going to get for x. We're finding the value of x whenever there's an equal sign. When there's not an equal sign, like in the last lesson, we just stopped right here. We just factored. But once they put that equal sign on you, now you have to find out what number we can replace that x with. All right, so remember what I said. Two numbers multiplied together give you 0. One of those numbers has to equal 0. So either this here has to equal 0 or this has to equal 0, so that when we multiply these two, we get 0 for our answer. Okay, a lot of theory, I know, I get this kind of stuff, but there's a reason for teaching you all of that. So one of these groups of numbers, because this is a group here, either this group or this group has to be 0, so that when we multiply it, we get 0. So either x plus 2 equals 0, or x plus 3 equals 0. So the question is, what number does x have to be so that when I add 2 to it, I get 0? Well, let's figure x out. If I subtract 2 here and subtract 2 here, x equals negative 2. So let's box that in. Let's do the same thing over here. Subtract 3, subtract 3. X equals negative 3. All right, so actually I end up with two answers here. And just a little clue here, the highest exponent you have in your problem will tell you how many answers you're going to come up with. If that were a 4, we'd have 4 different answers here. But both of these answers will make this a true statement. Well, let me show you. Let's do this one. So anytime I see an x, I'm going to put in a -2. Let's see if that's a true statement. That's 4. That's a -10. That's a +6. Does that equal 0? 4 minus 10 is -6 plus 6 equals 0. Yes. Any number plus its opposite is giving you 0. So that works. All right, let's try the -3 here. So wherever I see an x, I'm going to put a -3. So 9 minus 15 plus 6 equals 0. 9 minus 15 is -6. 2 opposites added together give me 0, so that's a true statement too. All right, so I just proved that both of those numbers work. So when you do these, you're going to get, in this case, you're going to get 2 answers. So what we did is we factored it, just like we've done before, and then we took each part of the factor and set it equal to 0 and solve for x. So what we found out is that if we take -2 and put it in here, what do we get? -2 plus 2, and then let's put a -2 in for the other one. And we don't care what number we get here, because whatever we get, if we multiply it by 0, we're going to get 0. So this doesn't even matter what number we get. But if we did care, we'd have 0 times -2 plus 3 is 1. Does that equal 0? Yes, it does. So -2 works. And we do the same thing with the -3. So I'm just doing a lot of stuff here, trying to get you a little bit of hold of what's happening. But basically what you're doing is you're taking your problem they give you, factoring it, setting one parenthesis equal to 0, setting the other parenthesis equal to 0, solving for x, and you get 2 answers and you're done. Okay, and you can go in there and check it, and you'll find out that the answer, yes, is correct. So, I never had anybody really teach all that to me on why all it worked. I knew how to do it, but it sure helps me in math when I kind of know why I'm doing it. And so let's look at one like, oh goodness, they just kind of jump real fast into some hard problems. I'm going to put one more down here that's a little bit simpler, because I have a little brain and I need to go over it more than just one problem. So, all right, so what we're going to do here, because it's got an equal sign there, I know that I'm solving for x. 2 parentheses, and x there, a 2 there, a 1 there. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. Okay, next step, x plus 2 equals 0. X plus 1 equals 0. Okay, solve for x. Subtract 2, x equals -2. Subtract 1, x equals -1. And I'm done. Okay, and one thing that you might have caught is your x is always going to be the opposite of whatever this number is. I've got a +2 here, my x is going to be a -2. If this were a -2, my x would be a +2. Okay, same thing here. My other x value is going to be the opposite of whatever this is, a -1. So you don't really have to do all of this here. You just have to find out what number do I have to put in here, add 1 to it to give me 0. That's in a perfect world when you're dealing with whole numbers and it's real easy to do. We'll work on some that have some fractions and some other stuff that makes your life miserable. But no, sorry, not really miserable, but just slightly unbearable. All right, so for example 2, they give me this, which really what they've already done is they factored the trinomial down. So this is the step you're not having to do. You're not having to factor that into two factors. But we're still looking for x. So they gave us this one, they gave us this one. So we say 2x minus 5 equals 0, and we say x plus 4 equals 0. This one here is easy. What's the opposite of 4? Negative 4, and we're done. Okay, so we found one of our numbers. This one here, we have to actually do the math, the algebra. So 2x equals 5, because those cancel. Then we divide by 2, cancel. And my x equals 5 halves, and my x equals negative 4. So when you have something with a fraction on it, that's supposed to be an arrow. When you have something with a fraction on it, it's going to mean you're going to have to actually do the algebra in order to find the answer. You can't just look and take the opposite of the number because you don't just have a number. Let's look at example 2, and hopefully you won't mind these too much, that you're getting used to factoring, and it's like, this isn't too terribly wretched. All right, so what we're going to do with this is, first of all, if it doesn't say equals 0, we have to make it equal to 0. So what we're going to do is subtract 12 from this side and subtract 12 from the other side. Okay, now that becomes 0 because we just took the 12 and we moved it over to this side. All right, once we do that, then we can factor this. Okay, so factoring it, 2 times negative 12 is negative 24. So we're looking for two numbers multiplied together, give me negative 24, added, give me negative 5x. So 8 times 3 is 24, and if we took this and made that a negative and that a positive, negative times a positive gives you a negative. A negative 8 plus 3 is a negative 5. So that's what I wanted. That worked for me. This is old stuff, so remember doing this? So we just changed negative 5x to that. All right, and then we group. And then we take out a 2x, and I'm left with an x minus 4. Take out a 3, and I'm left with an x minus 4 equals 0. And then I've got a 2x plus 3 and an x minus 4 equals 0. All right, so again, I just look at this one here, and I know that x equals 4 here, the opposite of the negative 4. This one here is a little bit different. I have to actually, again, do the math. Minus 3, 2x equals negative 3. And then I have to divide by 2, and I get x equals negative 3 halves. So those are my two answers for this one. Okay, well, we'll start on example 3 on the next video.